has to step out, it is well. This is real life conversation here. Meeting up your meeting. Okay. This is real life conversation. Okay. I think we're live. This is real live conversation. Okay. Okay. We're live. This is real live conversation. Let me take off. I forgot what I was supposed to do. Is the echo gone? No, it's still there. Let's see.
Somebody needs to mute themselves or.
Is the echo gone? No, I think it's me.
Do you have another device on?
No, I think it's me. So let me.
Yeah.
Did someone else have something on? Because it stopped. I don't know what I did.
I think everybody's on.
Someone else have something on? Because it stopped. I don't know what I did.
I think everybody's on.
Someone else have something on? It stopped. I don't know what I did.
I think everybody's on.
Someone else have something on? How are we now? I think we're good. Can you hear me?
Yes, no echo.
Awesome. I gotta figure this thing out. Hey, everybody in Facebook land. Keena gonna figure it out one day. I try to have me a cheat sheet and it just don't work. But we welcome you to His Bride Conversation for our Tuesday night at 8 o'clock on the last Tuesday of each month. Next month in October, while I'm thinking about it, we're gonna do it on that Monday, so October 25th. So it's gonna be a little bit different because I have to go out of town on that Tuesday, and I want it to be as seamless as possible, right? So we're gonna do it on October 25th, and we're gonna be talking about, are you in love with your rock, or are you in love with the relationship, or the person that gave it to you? So which part are you in love with and what you're really looking for? But anywho, we'll talk about that on the next time. But today we're talking about courting versus dating. And I know courting is one of those terms from, as people would say back in the day. Look at him smiling already. And so we're just going to have some working definitions. But before we get to those, I want to introduce you to some fabulous couples. Some of them are without their gentlemen, but they're not far. But we'll start with my left, which is Anthony and Jay. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, how you guys doing? My name is Anthony Perkin.
I'm Jay Brittany.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they so
We're
beautiful.
together. No, I was like,
Happy. That's right.
right. Hey, right. Playing the violin.
That was for Khalid. We're together and we're happy.
Right. No,
Inside joke, guys. Inside joke. And
yeah.
Miss Shan, my friend from long time.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chandra Smith, and I guess I'm coming from the perspective of divorcee with twin 8-year-olds and newly engaged.
Yes. Totally
Over
different
40.
perspective about dating, right?
For all you Kevin Samuels people, the over 40
Oh,
crowd,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we
yeah,
are
yeah.
not in the graveyard.
Wait, did
We
we
are
start
not
out?
in the
Wait, we started
graveyard.
out like this? Okay, come on, James and Yamisi. We
Shots
started
fired
out.
already. Shots fired.
Go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry, James and Yamisi.
Hey y'all, I'm Yamisi. This is my husband James. I don't know what else you're supposed to say. We're here, coming from Carbondale, Illinois.
Yes.
You know,
And they have two beautiful boys and another one on the way.
third on the way. Third on the
Yes,
way.
another boy. Yes. So yeah, you guys are coming from that perspective of dating and marriage, and yeah. So there was some dating that happened. There was some courting that definitely happened, right? Else you wouldn't be
Yeah.
3 babies later. So,
Absolutely.
and my lovely assistant is Miss Torres. She is here to look at the chat. So Torres, just put that that hand thing up when we've got a question from the chat. And I don't want to overlook. And so we have for our balanced conversation, right? We can't be so super spiritual and be no earthly good. We got to have some practical conversation, right? So that's what my dear friend, Khalid, go ahead and reintroduce yourself to the people.
All right. Thank you for having me again, sis. My name is Khalid Scott. I am a 28-year licensed clinical social worker who has a private practice, international, I just forgot the name of my private practice, High Achievers. And I specialize in both individual, family, and now marriage therapy. So this should be a very interesting conversation. And I am a divorced dad of a beautiful 19-year-old daughter, and happily single and dating.
Yes. So let's start out with some working definitions. Okay, so I'm going to start out with this. This is the second phase in my book, His Bride. I took it off of my virtual because it wouldn't let my husband's face come through. So we wanted his face to come through. You want to introduce yourself back? To the Facebook people, not to the group.
How's everybody doing? My name is Eugene Arnold.
Yes. And him, my husband, my boyfriend. Okay. So courting, it literally means to be involved with someone romantically, it typically with the intention of marrying. Okay. And that's real key, the word intention of marrying. Then there's dating, a social or romantic appointment or engagement. It can be casual. It could have an expiration date. But it's different from courting because the intention is not the same. I think we start out dating, and then at a certain point in the relationship, you veer off into courting, meaning that there is a unique intention. But for some, they don't date. And I'm coming to you, Shan. They don't date from the onset of us sitting down and breaking bread. What are your intentions? Straight up from the hip. And if your intentions is to give me an expiration date or to put me on the shelf and pull me off the shelf when you think it's okay. The last conversation we dealt with leaving the door open, the most famous booty call song right now by Bruno Mars. Yeah, it's a booty call song. Jay done fell out. We have real conversation, Jay. Yeah, he didn't give no intentions except for that night. That's it. And you ain't promised the next day. You ain't promised to sleep over either. He left the door open for whatever, the whirlpool, the hot sauna. We're gonna have steak, filet, right?
No, Lay's chips. Remember?
Oh, is that Lay's chips? I couldn't.
No.
Well, you know,
You
some
don't
people
get a
say
steak
it's
dinner.
filet. Some
No.
people say he's saying filet, and I thought he was talking about Lay's chips because he said
he got the
munchies.
Lay's, which is the munchies, because he got the Haze, which is that CBD. So no, you don't get steak dinner.
You get Lay's potato chips? Okay, Shan.
And women love the song, don't they?
Man.
Love it.
So I
Right.
always associate music with where that's my intention of vibing with people and understanding what perspective. So I chose 2 songs this time. One video or flyer had Biz Markie, rest in peace, Biz Markie. But you say he just a friend. So he got his intentions on a chick, right? And she with somebody else, and she keeps telling him that he's a friend, but he's seeing something different, and he trying to get in where he fit in, right? So he got intentions of dating, in my perspective. But then I had the opposite, which was, and it's so interesting. I've never listened to the words of this song, and I love me some PJ Morton, but the words to Say So, if you listen to that song and listen to the words, her whole position is just say it. If we're not long-term, just say it. If we're short-term, then just say it. If you love me, then just say it. So I came from that perspective of, we don't have honesty a lot of times in relationships. We start out with the flowers and, I'm sorry, Shan, maybe not steak. As my clients will tell me, when you supersize the thought meal, and I do mean thought, not thought in your head, but thought as in them H's out there. When you supersize the thought meal, this is how it was explained to me. You in there real good because you're not on the dollar menu. You got to go to the other menu. I'm telling you how it was explained to me by some 20-year-olds. And I was like, huh? like the dollar menu, the regular menu, and then you get to supersize. 2 different aspects of your relationship with your gentleman caller from a female perspective. I don't know if it works in the reverse, but I'm just saying, this is how it was brought to me. So I'm saying all that to say, we have to have better communication skills. We have to. I don't encourage anybody to be anywhere where you're not loved, you're not protected, you're not esteemed, you're not built up, you're not poured into to be a better person, right? That's not a place you should be. A place that you should be is that type of place. So if that means you being alone for a while, then that means you be alone for a while. But being in a relationship that does not feed your spirit, does not give you something to press toward, does not encourage you to be better than you are today, just accepts you the way you are, in all your glory, and then you expect them to fix it, that's a problem. That you're starting out with a problem, and that problem is not going to go away. It just gets larger when you put the ring on your finger, spend all this money for this elaborate wedding, and you're not happy. I've been a bridesmaid. I had a whole trunk of bridesmaids' dresses. And I can count on one hand, out of all those weddings that I was in, all the money that I spent to stand up there and root the couple on, most of them are not together. And I don't say that in a disparaging way, but I say that to say it means something when there's secrets or there's hidden expectations that you have not talked about, right? So we're gonna help the people today. Miss Shan, did you want to start us off since you dropped it?
Well, she gave such an amazing walk up to the topic, but my whole, I would say my personal process and journey is come out of ambiguity, come out of these abstract relationships or pseudo relationships where there's not a label, there's no definition, everything is up in the air, and it's a breeding ground for insecurity, ambiguity, and confusion. To me, if you are over 25, you should be able to date with purpose, with advancement, and knowing where you stand every step of the way. And it's not about, I'm all about, let's go to the watchwords, resting in your femininity and not being masculine ladies and all of that. I get all of that. But at the end of the day, if you need to know where you stand, something's wrong if you don't.
Say so, right?
That's it. I mean, and here's the thing, because there's communication going on. If you're not saying so, that's telling as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I totally agree with that. And I know that in phase 2, I talk about some relationships where the ambiguity was there, but I ignored it. I ignored it because I wanted the fantasy. And I don't, of course, I changed all the names in the book, so y'all ain't don't know. But that ambiguity that you're talking about, Shan, that's a real thing. And I know for a female, expecting something different than what the gentleman I was with was willing to give, or when he was willing to give. This is what I say. When you're courting somebody, when you're in a serious relationship with somebody, and I don't want to get caught up in semantics, dating versus courting, so I might go back and forth with the words, but I just need for everybody who's listening to understand it's a mindset. It's a mindset that you are there with intentionality to do something different than to change your status from where you are. You're changing your status from being single to being married. That's your intention. And so I had that thought process. It shouldn't be a surprise to you if and when it happens. And there shouldn't be an if. I take that back. It shouldn't be an if. It's a when it happens. And what I mean by it, when the ring comes. Because you've already had that discussion. You've had that discussion about marriage. You've had the discussion about finances. You've had that discussion about, do we want kids? We don't want kids. You've had that discussion. You should have had that discussion if you're in a long-term relationship. So I'm going to go to Anthony and Jay, because they are youngins they are youngins.
Right.
So what are your thoughts about that? But thank you, Shan, definitely.
Well, the biggest thing, and I'll speak for my millennial peers, the biggest thing with us is we don't like commitment. So it's easy for us to have relationship values, relationship acts, and relationship based like actions and things that we do, but we don't want the accountability of, if this switches out or anything goes other than what I planned, then I'm out. So for us, we're like, not us in general, but for millennials in this day and age of dating, it's more so, I don't want the label, but I want everything that comes with it. Like, oh no, we're not getting married. No, I don't want no marriage, but I want to live with you. Yeah. You know, I want us to have a bank account together. You know, I want us to build this together. Like, I don't want to date you, but you know, I could take you out every now and again. Maybe we go to the movie, you know, stuff like that. So we don't want the growing pains that come with the labels. We don't want, we basically don't want the bad stuff. We want all the good, like you were saying, the fantasy. Yeah. But with us, it's like, it's almost severe, to the point if like we get into an argument, oh, I'm done. Like, and we could be talking for the past 6 months, you know, not us, but I'm talking about like, you know,
clear. We just talking about in general, not Jay and Anthony.
But no, that's very real. We're in like a almost like a microwave type like relationship thing. It's like we want it. That's good. We want it quick, fast, in a hurry, but we don't want to put the time in that it takes as far as the oven goes. Like when you cook that chicken, you know, we want to just throw it in the microwave. So commitment.
And it tastes funny when it's in the microwave too.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know,
go ahead, Jay.
I'm about to go this way a little bit, but I promise I'll bring it back. Our generation, we found out about therapy, right? So we started, even if we don't actually go to a psychologist, we have memes, we have Google, and all these things that are explaining to us, like, this is the reason why you have that problem. So our solution to that is just don't avoid that. We don't have to have a label. Like, we can do it casually. Yep. It's okay. That alleviates all of the divorce that we're terrified of. It's a trauma response. That's what it is. At the end of the day, it's a trauma response. And I'm saying that from personal experience. Yeah. Not in this relationship, but you know, in past, I've been married before. you know.
Okay.
So in my marriage, I even acted like that. That's a whole nother whatever. But it's something that I had to unlearn and actually go to therapy for, and actually seek God about, and actually get those things broken off of me. Because logically, it makes sense to avoid pain.
It does.
It does.
Absolutely.
To any human,
Absolutely.
it makes sense to avoid pain. So if I can do that, if I find somebody that wants to be casual and I want to be casual, why not do it? Right?
Right. Because your
issue
need is
happens.
getting that. Right. The
Right. The
relationship
issue
part
happens
of it. I
when-
think Khalid, you wanted to jump in. I'm sorry, Jay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Oh, you can come to me, you can go through all of them and then you come to me to get the real perspective.
Oh Lord.
No, Jay, I didn't want to cut you off, love.
Well, I didn't want to dominate the conversation.
No, it's good. No, you speaking some truth of actually having some realization about there's some things that needed to change within you if you wanted something different. If you didn't want to repeat your constant cycles, and you want to do the work to have something meaningful and valuable and something worth fighting through, if I can put it that way, arguing through, then there were some things that had to change within you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Victor.
I was just gonna say this. I know you all were saying the millennials and this, but it's straight across the board. When you talk about no matter what age it is, nobody wants commitment now. It's straight across the board. And then when you look at it from this perspective, everything that we see on TV, that's what's being promoted. It's being promoted. Marriage is not really being promoted like that. And if it is being promoted, it's open marriages. So it's across the board. It's not a popular thing right now, far as the way marriage is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So it's not just the millennials, it's going straight across the board. Because I know somebody in their 50s and 60s that still don't want to.
Yeah. Refuses to, like runs to the hills. James and Yumisi, did you all want to chime in? I know the baby got the fingers in the mouth and just feeling all good inside.
He done dozed on off now. So hey, I mean, I definitely like just listening to you guys, and like for when me and my now husband, when we met, we didn't start off perfect. He was when we met, he was going through a divorce, and as Christians, that's a no, run away, don't do that. But he was one of those people. It was hard not to love him, and that was where I struggled the most, because I pray, oh my God, what is this? I'm trying to not love him because of what he's going through. And it was like, the more I would try to run the way, there was something about him that drew me closer to him. And so, but one of the things that from the beginning, even though he was going through what he was going through, he made it very clear, no, my intention is to be with you. This ain't no game. This ain't no play around. This ain't no, oh, we just doing something, and that was different from me, because I'm used to the last person right before him was, oh, we just, I asked him, what we doing here? What is this? Oh, we just kicking it. We just chilling. Oh, okay. But then what? Like, what's the point? Where are we going? And it was never, he wanted nothing. And so, it just seeing the difference in having a relationship where there is some intention and going somewhere, and seeing the difference, between people who I ain't got, look, we just here, we just having fun. So no, you disturbing my spirit. That's what you're doing. But that's another conversation. So, there had to be, even from that, because I was involved with him, for some time, there was some things I had to heal from before I could even commit to him, because there was some strongholds. There's some things I had to release, that I had to go to God about, because I allowed myself to be in that predicament. And again, we didn't do it perfect, but by God's grace, we made it through. We made it through that stage, and we're here now. So this is what, year two of marriage. So we still newly fresh, but I like him and stuff. So
James, did you want to chime in?
Well, one thing attracted my wife, my wife that I'm with now. She just was so determined about the things of what she wanted in life. And I think a lot of people, when you dating or trying to get to know someone, people don't even really know what they want out of life, and to me, that's a kind of turnoff because I have a lot to offer. And oh, get out of here. So that was one thing I liked that attracted me to my wife. And it made me want to pursue her more because she had like a goal. She had something in life that she wanted. So it was like, I don't know if she had told you, Keena, but she probably did. But when I met her, I asked her, I said, do you know how to cook? You know what I'm saying? But I asked her that because, I'm a cook, that's what I do. So I wanted to see where her mindset was, you know what I'm saying? So I knew where I was going with the conversation, and here we are now with the J effect,
Right.
But
Whole business cooking now.
right.
Right.
But
And
it's
their
a beautiful
seasonings are
thing.
the bomb, by the way. You need to
Thank
get
you.
some.
Thank you.
Yes.
But it's a beautiful thing to be linked, and another thing that I didn't say at first, that I should have said at first was God. She had some God in her, and I'm a man of God myself. So that anytime you have God in the midst of something, it's gonna be rocky because the devil is the author of all confusion. But if you trust in God and lean on him to his word, that's when the transformation is gonna happen. We be trying to do it ourselves. We be trying to do all this counseling. But if you don't got God in the center part of your relationship, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Amen.
And just making the choice to recognize that you're not coming in perfection.
Exactly.
Right? We're not a perfect person, and you can't expect that other person to be your end all be all. Even when you're getting to know each other, he needs to know that I like smacking. I need to know that he likes garlic. I need to know these things. These shouldn't be a surprise. And that's why, I'm a fond believer in communicating, because it was like when we got together, I was broken. I was heartbroken, like sick, heartbroken, suicidal broken. And I had to go through 6 to 8 months of counseling to even communicate effectively. And I was not, in my mind, wasn't even thinking about him. He had intentions, but I wasn't thinking about him, because I was so heartbroken from the relationship that had just occurred, the breakup that had just occurred when I met him. So that is key. Khalid, did you want to jump in on that?
Absolutely. Let me just say this out loud. This is very refreshing to see beautiful couples and people who still believe in the magic of marriage. Because again, like what was said earlier, I see the downside of marriages, and it's something about this pandemic that occurred.
Oh boy.
It's like when March 2020 came, something struck a chord, and the devil has been dancing ever since. Because as September of last year, a year ago, I decided to do my private practice where I only focused in on married couples. And within 2 weeks, I was packed with a waiting list.
Wow.
Because everyone was going through it, because I have to cohabitate full time with this person. Basically, we were all doing it part-time. We get up, we go to work, we do our thing, come home, you go to the gym, you go out with the girls for mimosas or whatever. We come back home, kiss each other's forehead, and go to sleep. Now we at home from sun up to sundown and everything in between. And the kids are there on their computers getting on our nerves.
Wow.
And everything else that came with the pandemic. So it was like somebody turned on the lights and the roaches just boom,
That's good.
And over the past year, I've heard just the most horrific horror stories about people who supposed to love each other, be devout to each other, be committed to each other. And I tell them that, wow, we gotta do some real hard work individually and collectively.
That's it.
And I remember a husband, because most of my referrals come from wives. They give me a call, Mr. Scott, saw you on Psychology Today. My husband and me are on the outs. We need you to help us or it's over with. And so I said, tell your husband to call me. Well, Mr. Scott, it's okay because my husband's the one who said he wanted a black male therapist. And come to find out, that was an agenda too with a lot of the husbands, because their thing was, if I get a male therapist, he'll be on my side. But they don't know I'm very neutral. I'm very neutral. And I blame both parties. So majority of my husbands were, that sounded real bad. The majority of the husbands on my caseload were, the majority of my cases were infidelity. Well, all of them were infidelity. All of them was infidelity. And I told both the wife and husband, it's both your fault. So the wives were like, how dare you, sir? What did I do? I said, you allowed him to come back, didn't you? And you got to know something about men. When you give us permission, we run with it. So, and we're not going to start this therapeutic relationship.
We're going to put a pen right there. Put a pen. I'm going to put a pen right there. Go ahead. That's a whole nother.
Absolutely. But I let them know that we can't do the blame game starting this therapeutic relationship off. Yeah. We both have to be committed on saying, let me put the mirror up and see what happened. You know, right. And I remember one of the husbands, and I'll wrap up with this. He said, well, Mr. Scott, where's your wedding band? And I said, well, I guess it's invisible. And I said, no, I'm divorced. Well, sir, how can you be a good marriage therapist if you're divorced? You're not committed. And I said, well, I'm gonna explain this one time only. Don't ever ask me again, or you can take your business elsewhere. I've dated, courted, been engaged, been married, been separated, divorced, and healed. I've been at the points where you haven't. I know what it means to go to the 30th floor at the Daily Center and have my life turned upside down. So my commitment to where you are, number 5, is going to make your marriage work if you put the work into it, because I don't want no more couples to go to the 30th floor at the Daily Center. So let's go ahead and work this magic out.
And for those who are watching from other locales, that our Daily Center is one of our court buildings, and the 30th floor is where divorces happen. Right. What'd you say, Shan? You on mute, love?
I said family court.
Yes.
Spouse support court, divorce court.
Court,
in
right.
there too.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, so this is really, really, really interesting because it's a segue into, I didn't realize we had like 4 windows, sure, Shan, that's okay. 4 windows of people who've had the divorce, well, 5 windows, including Khalid, who've had the experience of being divorced, then getting back into the dating field, if you will, or putting, as they say, putting yourself out there. I've never been divorced, but as I said in my book, I would have been divorced 3 times had I not listened. And that is straight honesty. Don't nobody need to tell me, because for all 3 of my suitors, I had ring, I made preparations for marriage, money was put down, I lost money. The engagements didn't work out for my good and for their good too, right? Because sometimes I think we don't think about the fact that you guys could be good together, but not at this particular point in your life. Yep. If I'm making sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that other person is a bad person. It took me a long time to get to that realization that it doesn't mean the other person is a bad person. It just means that they're not right for you where you are, and you're not right for them where they are. It doesn't mean that you'll get back together at some later time. I've had that too, you know, over, what was it, about 15 year span of time, dating on and off again with the person I thought was my forever. And in my mind, I was courting. I wasn't dating. I was courting because I had every intention of when, not if, but when. And when it finally happened, oh, I was so excited. Let's put the money down. Let's go get the dress. Let's go. Let's go. And it completely fell apart because that idea of a ring, and we definitely will talk about that on October 25th, but it was almost like it was a noose. Because from their perspective, you mine, and so therefore my archaic, and I'm calling them archaic views of what that means was not discussed, but it was acted out. So for example, one of my suitors wanted to basically clip my wings. Like, the book would have never been written. I would not be speaking to you right now because this is not what women do. I'm supposed to be modest. I'm supposed to dress nice. I'm supposed to be eye candy. And that this one over here, like, right. Don't listen to him. But that's what my role was. My role was not to be Kina the lawyer, Kina, entrepreneur. No. When we married, those things needed to change. I was baffled because I'm like, oh, I thought you loved all of me. All these things that make me me. I thought you loved all of those things. But not truthfully, because then it became a stronghold in the relationship whenever I had an engagement to speak, whenever I had a teaching engagement, whenever I went out of the country, whenever I had an event. Well, how long are you gonna be gone? Well, it became the interrogation. And I'm like, in my mind, I was like, okay, this is different. After the ring, things changed. And so what I would say to you, want to ask our panelists, what is your thought about that? Like, when you have the intention of being forever, and something rubs up against your ego, male or female, it rubs up against your ego, like, I don't like her to wear form-fitting clothes. This one, no more. This one. I was like, but you liked it before. Right. You're my wife now. Like, go ahead, Khalid. You want to say something?
Right, and that's a good way to talk about the title of this, dating versus courting, because in the dating and courting process, this is where all this is supposed to be addressed.
Right.
This is where you're supposed to be 120% transparent. Like, for instance, for me, I need my woman to cook. I'm not doing the 2 days a week. Khalid, I work 8 hours like you. Then you don't need to be with Khalid.
Yeah.
Because Khalid gonna pay that mortgage the first of every month for 12 months. Yikes. And I'll find a woman who like to cook 7 days a week. That ain't no problem. But again, that's where we gotta have those uncomfortable conversations and understand too, and I say this all the time, we are married and committed to our patterns and not people.
That's good. I'm gonna put a pin.
Say that again. We are married to our patterns, not people. So the way we operate, the way we grew up and saw people do, and the things that we took on, we are consistent with that. I am never going to change that. I do not like a meal from a woman. That's always going to be Khalid's thing. It's something about a woman cooking a meal for me that does it.
Yeah.
Now, some men were like, I like to cook. Brother, handle it. I'm going to buy you an apron. I ain't the one who's going to do it.
Yeah, that's good.
That's real. I think
needs to know that on the first date, on the first date, and stick with it and be consistent. And so then when we going towards courting, it's no surprise. Now we're planning how our life is going to look. As you know, you're going to cook every day for Khalid, and then we're going to go from there,
Right. I think, James, you hit it on that, right? You asked Yemisi, do you cook? Because was that like your love language, that you liked cooking? You liked her tasting your food? Was that your means of showing her?
Well, I wanted to make sure, like the gentleman said, the biggest thing I wanted to make sure that she can make a meal for me.
And that she can.
Look,
And that she can.
Yeah, yes.
To be fair, I have to be grateful for him, because while yes, his expectation that is, that I do cook, he ain't so stuck on that expectation that this time where I've been pregnant and I've been, the one working, pretty much because he's disabled and things like that. So he can't go out and work. So that, is a problem on me. One of the things he said, babe, I got it. And so he was able to, listen, I love you enough. I care, you ain't got to worry about that. So he, there was that role, that switch in roles, I guess, so to say, because people expect, well, the wife is supposed to cook and clean and do all of these things. And it's like, well, if I was doing that, I'd be running myself ragged, trying to work full time, be pregnant, do, all these different things. And so to have my husband step in and say, hey, I got this part. Don't worry about it. And baby, even tonight, he cooked a meal. I was like, oh, Jesus, thank you. I'm so grateful that he could cook, because so just being but those are things that we had those conversations about. And during that time of courting, we would cook for each other. We would cook meals together. And so knowing that he has a love for cooking just like I have a love for cooking, and so being able to bring those things together too. And that, like, one thing again about this intentional thing, God is very intentional about when he brings relationships together. I didn't know that we were going to end up having a business cooking together, and so just being able to, that joy that we both share, and God being intentional and placing us together and saying, okay, but here's what's next for that. The marriage ain't all about love. Like, okay, but are you flourishing? Are you producing? What I want to say? Be fruitful and multiply. That ain't just babies. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like there's more to that. And so having those conversations, I knew, before we even got together, that this man loved to grill, that he used to sell plates, that he, that was something he wanted to get back into. And at first I was looking at him like, sir, nope, not my ministry, not what I want to do. I like to cook, but I ain't trying to do it like that. But again, when you're praying about your relationship, when you're talking to God and you're in communication with God, being able to come down off my, little horse, this is what I want to do. And when all, and being able to say, what, okay, God, what does this look like? Being open to his dreams and not just focused on my own dreams. And so there again, that being able to switch. So I'm grateful for it, because everybody ain't got that.
And that just goes back. And Jay, I'm going to come to you, but I think there was a question from the chat. Go ahead,
Yes.
Tars. Someone go to you too. I see your wheels running.
Someone asked, how much should you share when dating versus when you are in courtship?
You know what, Jay, I'm gonna come back to you because I know Shan burning. Go ahead, Miss Shan. Just because I didn't have this conversation with Miss Shan. So. But Jay, I'm coming back to you, okay? I'm not gonna forget. Go ahead, Shan. How much should you share, Shan?
Here's the thing. It depends on the tone that you're trying to set. Basically, if you want to start off with evasiveness and you want to start off with deception, you want to start off with avoidance, well, then go ahead and do that. Then don't answer nothing, don't ask nothing, and just simply talk about the news. And then now you'll wonder 3 months now down the line why you don't know anything about this person and all that. Well, that's the tone you set. And it's also a weed out process. If you want to find out anything, seek and you shall find. So it's pretty much, if you're not trying to ask anything, then you won't know anything. And then when you try to later down the road, you now want this all-inclusive, transparent, open type relationship. Well, then how on earth is that going to do? Is it a light switch that gets turned on? Things don't go wrong, they start wrong. So this is, if you have nothing to hide,
right,
then what's the problem? Now, I'm not an advocate on day one, your whole story is ran down, but there should be strategic conversation taking place. It's about wisdom, strategic conversation. You know, if you are a person where and I would say for those in their 20s, under 27, if you're dating for enjoyment, then it may be more lighthearted. But for those older and you're dating for marriage, you're dating for purpose, time is not something to waste.
Yeah.
It's not. So therefore, you want intentions up front, you want clarity up front, and you want a formulated path up front.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's it. That's all. Everything you do should be a setup for those three things to have and take root. That's it. That's all.
And then you allow the other person, when you're open and going to the question that was asked, definitely I would agree with Shan about being strategic and because they already see your life. You know, we can go biblical and say Boaz was watching Ruth, right? He was watching her from afar off, but he was watching. The scripture doesn't say, and Boaz was watching Ruth, and Boaz was watching Ruth, but do believe he was watching, because what? He was the owner of the land. So he was watching her. So you don't become wife material. You already are. You don't become husband material. You already are. So you're walking that thing out. Even in the courtship, you're walking things out. For example, I remember a discussion, I'll call it a discussion, but Big G used to ask me like where I was going and how far. So that would prick a wound from the previous relationship that I just told you about, right? And I'm like, he don't need to know what I be where I be. And that was my attitude. Mm-hmm. And then I had to be checked by Holy Spirit. It was like, no. If he's going to be the priest, provider, and protector, then he needs to know. And it's out of respect. It ain't got nothing to do with crouching, you know, my independence, you know. So Jay, I want to get to you so you didn't lose your thought.
Oh boy, because I was almost there.
Yeah. This is good, y'all. This is really good.
What I was gonna say was, as far as we go, we have a very unconventional love story. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to go into that because for the sake of time. But one thing that we had, you said Boaz watched Ruth. Mm-hmm. We have social media. We go to the same church, but because I was married, I didn't see him, you know. Mm-hmm. And then one day I went to church and I saw him, and Holy Spirit said he's safe. What that mean? I just got out of a relationship. You know what I'm saying? No. But I saw how he moved on social media. I saw how he moved around church. Mm-hmm. My profile also exuded who I am, you know, in the way that I move. Now, one thing that I think is really, really important, and it's just for us, we're just gonna talk about God because that's who he is for us. Mm. God is first. This is a very, very purpose-filled man. He moves in his we both walk heavy in our purposes. And if you know that from the beginning, if he was studying to be a minister when we first got together. He's a minister now, but I knew where he was going. I'm a marketplace minister. I own businesses that belong to God. I have a ministry that belongs to God when we got together. So because we both know the way each other moves, it wasn't hard to have conversations. Because the conversation wasn't perverted. It was natural. The fact that God told me he was safe, I knew I could be transparent and it be in a safe space. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The way he moves from the beginning, it's very strange. I wish I could tell our story, but from the beginning, we both just like it clicked first conversation, and we weren't talking about our intentions to be together. In fact, our intentions at first wasn't even to talk to each other.
Right.
We were going, the first day, that's technically looking back on it, it was a date, but we were going to a mutual friend's like birthday get together, and we just happened to carpool together.
Yep.
Wasn't no flirting at first, nothing like that, but we both, you know, obviously you fine. You know what I'm saying? Like we
hard on the eyes. I see you.
Right. And the conversation went from, well, why are you single?
Yep.
Why are you single? Mm-hmm. And neither one of us put the blame on the other person.
Yep.
Right. And that's essential. Like just starting out with that natural camaraderie, if you will, or just organically having that conversation. I know Big G and I did not have the most conventional start either, because like I said, I came to him broken.
Yeah.
I was hurting, and it all the venom came out. All the venoms
Yeah.
came out. And he went to God
Mhm.
like a month after we met, and he was like, "Who is she, God? Because I ain't got time for all this
Yo,
foolishness."
that is, yeah, yeah.
I got time.
I wanna piggyback on
Yeah.
something that she said.
Yeah.
So I was broken too. I had been depressed for almost 2.5 years because I had a long-term relationship like that was going on 3 years. We had the intent to marry.
Right.
Long story short, it didn't work out. So I
Mhm.
was broken for a while. So for a while, I wasn't even looking for a relationship because I know that, okay, I'm gonna hurt this person because I'm hurting. And I
Mhm.
actually tried. And it's very important that you do heal and that you do have your own like individual walk, because and it's all about identity. If you know who you are,
Yep.
you know who you can't be with.
Oh boy.
If you know who you
Put a
are,
pin on that one too.
yeah. if you know who you are and what you're supposed to be doing, you can easily weed out who
Mhm.
measures up and who doesn't. But to get back to the thing, when I knew I wasn't healed, I tried dating a girl out in Michigan.
Before me.
Before her, I tried dating a girl out in Michigan. I was like, okay, it's been what, 1.5 years since I've been broken up with this person, so let me go. And the relationship did not work out at all.
Wow.
I was still hurting. She was still hurting. So, for a while, I just said, you know what? Let me work on me. Because I know I got some issues. I know I got a lot of things that I don't necessarily bring to the table. I got some pride working in me. We were talking earlier about, what are you willing to basically compromise? I think it was the couple before us. I was raised, fortunately, by both of my parents, but my father instilled in me independence. That is one thing that he instilled into me. So I don't let nobody do nothing for me. I make my own money. I don't even let people work on my truck. Like I work on my own vehicles. I cook my own food. I buy my own clothes. I am 100% man.
Yeah.
But when it came to her, I had to learn and compromise. No, she's here to help.
Okay.
So it wasn't for me. I was dealing with pride. Like I can do this myself. What's going on?
Right.
With that.
Right.
But I had to compromise something that I had learned, which isn't necessarily bad. But in order for this to work, I said, okay, I see that she's trying to be my helper. I see that she's actually trying, to make this a partnership.
Yeah.
So compromising, not your integrity or what you stand for, but being willing to be flexible, has helped this relationship. And knowing who we are has really helped.
I think that is an essential thing, and not being afraid of who you are and who you believe you are going to become as you continue to evolve. I always go back to this phrase that I heard from a therapist, that we pick for who we are now, but God picks for who we shall be.
That's good.
I love that.
Who he's growing us to be. And some people make the choice of not being who you need them to be as you're growing and maturing. That's their choice. Hurtful as it may be, but that's their choice, and you have to respect their choice, right? And so I say that, with the 3 suitors, I had to choose, am I going to allow my wings to be clipped? That's the way I phrase it, my wings to be clipped. Or can I just not be with this person and be alone, and that be okay too? Like there's a stigma attached, I think, forever, like even definitely in this season, of being alone. Like somehow that is bad. That is not a bad thing.
It's not.
It's not a bad thing.
It's not.
And knowing how to love yourself. Like I always go back to Runaway Bride. She didn't know what kind of egg she liked. Something as simplistic as that. And I go back to that example because if you don't know you, then how do you explain to someone else that you're dating or courting, for that matter, or have intentions of courting, how to love you?
Yeah.
What they should know about you. If you don't know you, you don't have a clue as to how you like and prefer to be loved. You know, they have the five love language book. And I think it's a wonderful book. I don't think it's the end all be all, but it's a wonderful book to know, well, what things do I like? How do I like receiving love? Am I a gift person, or am I a spending quality time person? Mm-hmm. Because you need to know that about yourself, because then you get upset when the quality time is not there. And that is what that's how you receive love. And you're like, well, why come you don't know that? God should have told you that. Right. We all in God. God should have told you that. Conversation. That's a whole nother conversation, because it's not into crystal balls. Right. Exactly. Open up your mouth and say, this is how I like to be loved. This is what I need from you. I don't need, whatever the case may be. It's just, it goes back to what I started out our conversation about, is being, having honest, transparent conversations and not being afraid if that person chooses to not go further with you. Yeah.
Tina, if I could, really like listening to that and even answering the question about how much you share. What you share in the beginning is setting the foundation for what's to come. There has to be a firm foundation, especially if, for those of us that are Christians, the house got to be built. What is going to be built on the rock is going to be built on the sand. So if we're not having those conversations, and the foundation ain't being built up, we don't know what the other person wants. And then when you do get into these marriages and relationships, then you stuck and everything falling apart. Well, you ain't know the person. You have to take that time. And so while, like she said, yes, if it's nothing serious and maybe it's just a casual dating situation, no, you're not going to share as much. But if you if you know that that's the intention, then there needs to be some transparency. There needs to be some you being open, and there needs to be you being vulnerable. No, you're not doing that stuff on the first date. But if you 2-3 years in and y'all still ain't talk, well, first off, we ain't courting for no 2-3 years. I don't know. And that just sounds ludicrous to me, but that's your business. And if that's what thus says the Lord, then by all means. But I think like those are things somebody said something. Most men know right away that's what they want. Now, I won't say right away, but they know. Yeah. If they want you. I've heard. I don't know. I ain't no man, but from what I've heard, right. They know.
I think the men are nodding. James, you're nodding too. Yeah.
So with that being said, like there should be some conversations fairly early on that are setting the tone for your relationship, that are setting the foundation. We're not just about to be out here. And that's one of the things I like consistently push with him, especially because he was coming from a relationship, that was from a divorce. And my thing was, listen, I ain't getting divorced. We got to make this work. You can be on your second marriage. I don't want no second one. I don't know. Like we got to rock this out. So I'm like, noticing things about him and even about myself. And I was like, nope, we got to nip this in the bud from the beginning, from the gate. We need to talk. We need to open up our mouths. We need to build a firm foundation, whatever that is, and setting the tone for our relationship from the beginning. So that way we not a year in. One of the things I constantly tell him, I don't want to be in a marriage 14 years later. Now, oh my God, I'm so miserable. No, let's talk now. Let me tell you now what is going on, what expectations, all of that stuff up front. So that way we ain't in no shock later. I don't want to be shocked. I need to know. If you pay attention, you could choose to pay attention. You'll see it. You'll see what things need to be worked on, because we all have our stuff. But again, just setting that foundation before you even get out the gate.
Right. And I think that goes back to Shan, what you had said earlier. When we started the conversation, like, if you want to be deceptive, have at it. Mm-hmm. Just know that with deception, further deception, and it's going to be fruitless. It's not going to give you anything. There's no return on that investment that's anything good. But being honest and truthful, if you need a therapist, call Khalid, but I think he packed up right now, but I can refer you to somebody. But honestly, it's having a safe space to really talk those things through and to talk those things out, because sometimes how you really feel, if you hear yourself say it, you shock yourself. You're like, oh I really feel that way.
Yeah.
Good. I need to change that. Jay, you want to chime in, and then we're gonna wrap up because this has been good conversation, y'all. Shan kind of just started out with shots fired, but
Yeah, she came out guns blazing. Yeah.
guns blazing. But go ahead, Jay. You wanted to add something?
Well, I was gonna say, if you're going to court, like I know we start off dating, but if you're going to decide to court, you have to be very, very mature. And I say that because the person that you're
That's
with
good.
is going to change, and so are you. So that initial conversation, yes, that's so nice. You telling me who you are, and being completely honest about
Right.
who you are. But if you are not mature, you're not going to be able to evolve with that person. And
Right.
if you are with somebody that's not mature, they're not going to be able to evolve with you. And so
Yeah.
that's where that stuck comes in.
Unequally yoked.
Right. Unequally yoked. You have to be in constant communication, in constant vulnerability and transparency and honesty.
Yeah.
It's not going to work eventually, even if it works right now.
That's it.
Yes, Ms. Torres, there's a question.
Actually, it's not a question. I'm
sorry.
gonna speak from personal.
Yes, go ahead.
So when after my divorce, I took the time to literally find out my worth. And it's funny because I think I had put something on my post that Jada Pinkett Smith had said that I've really just kind of found profound, where she said how we love ourselves is how we show people how to love us.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn that within me. And it's funny, me and my husband have known each other over 30 years. Like, we were just always friends. And without me realizing it, he was actually courting me without me even knowing it. And how I found out was weird, because I think we were talking somewhere or to somebody, and he was like, yeah, my old lady, so and so and so. And I said, old lady, I'll take it. And from that point on, it was like, it was one of those things. And I always say that with he and I, it was like, I was in a 20-year, 18, maybe like an 18-year marriage, 20-year relationship. He was in a 10-year relationship.
Okay.
And so I always feel that God allowed us to go through what we felt we wanted to bring us back together to what he wanted. Right. And so I married my friend. I married my best friend. And he knew what I was into because both of us are in ministry. So I think by us bringing our similarities together with what it is that we both knew what it was to be expected when we got in. Right. We both knew what was not going to be allowed when we got in. And we knew how we knew how we were going to love on each other because of what we went through. So I think that whole courting aspect of things, to be courted in that sense of the word and not even realizing that you're being courted. And now I'm with you. He was like, this not going to be, we got married the next year. He wasn't gonna be, this ain't gonna be no 2-year, 3-year deal or nothing like that. He was like, this is gonna happen and this is how it's going, and that was just how it happened. So I think I just wanted to add in that input as far as the courting part and the dating part goes. I can't even say that we even dated. I think it was just more so we were just not even necessarily going through any particular type of motions, just enjoying each other's time together and being together. And it just kind of went in that direction. So that is good to know, that when there is the mindset of intentionality, that is the focus. It changes the perspective of how you deal with that other person. When you evolving, like Jay said, when you're mature enough to evolve and say, you know what, that's rubbed one part of my ego that I probably need to check it.
I need to get rid of that. You know, Big G was rubbing some parts of my ego. I was like, but reality, I needed to check it, right? And vice versa for him. So I just want to encourage, we're right at 9:01. I mean, this was organic conversation for real. I appreciate you guys so much for coming on and joining us and talking about this thing that exists, but we don't talk about it, right? And so that's why his bride conversations are happening, because I don't want anyone to have to go through something in order to learn something, in order to be in a position to tell somebody you don't want to do that. And so in leaving today, I just looked at Psalm 18:29. With your help, I can advance against a troop. With my God, I can scale a wall. So the whole point of this conversation is to help somebody scale a wall. You don't have to go through war and fire, to come out with some understanding and some clarity. You can listen to the experiences of our various panelists and probably other people in your life, even talking to a therapist and hearing some of the stories from a therapist perspective. You don't have to experience that.
Yeah.
You don't have to live through that. You don't have to cry in silence and be sad and depressed, because I'm alone and it's bad. And it's not bad. It's a good thing, because get to know who you are and who you want to be and how you want to be perceived. And I can, I'm not going to guarantee anybody love, but you attract what you putting out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you putting out trash like Jay and Anthony, we're talking about that Facebook thing. Like, I hear what you're saying, but I see what you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Excuse me?
And I was prepared to be single. I wasn't even looking to be involved at that time. I really wasn't. I was
tell
busy
everybody
focused on myself.
I tell everybody about this bracelet. This is my faux quad diamond bracelet, 4 carats, that I bought because it was going to be me, God, Holy Spirit, and Jesus. Faux quad. I was done. When I met him, I was done with relationship. It was just going to be us, the faux quad. And I bought a 4 carat diamond bracelet. Right. To prove my love. Right. So, Khalid, I think Aunt, you had your finger up too, but we're going to close out with you guys. Go ahead, Khalid.
Okay, and I just want to
close us out since Shan had guns a-blazing.
Right. So I just want to end with this note that, especially coming from so many of us who have been divorced before and been through this process, please, when you're going towards the dating and hopefully going towards courting, leading into marriage, remember the lessons God taught you from the previous. So you won't carry that baggage over to the new. For me, I had to learn, Khalid, stop getting involved with damsels in distress. Why wouldn't I? I'm a social worker. I'm a clinician. So I always was attracted, and what was attracted to me was damsels in distress. But then I left out empty. So no more damsels in distress. So whatever your lesson is from the relationships, or that one relationship, make sure you really got it. Right. And make sure that you don't take the errors into the new relationship, because they don't deserve it and you don't deserve it.
And I would say the flip side, I don't know if you call them Danny in distress, but that was my thought process, because by trade, that's what I do. I help and I fix young people's problems. That's what I do. Right. And so in relationships, it carried over, but I would not have known or recognized that. That was an aha moment for me. And Anthony?
Yeah, one thing I noticed is the similarities of how these stories happen before you met your significant other. It always ends in, oh, I was done. Like, I didn't want to date nobody. I didn't want to look. And I just want to encourage somebody and basically say, that's you exhausting all the things you thought you wanted.
Yeah.
To the point where God is like, okay, now.
You hit the preacher, Jay. You hit the preacher.
That's the point where God says, okay, I'm glad you're exhausted. Here you go.
Right.
Because that's how I met this one. I was at the point where, okay, this ain't for me. I'm cool with being single for the rest of my life, you know, bachelor, whatever you want to call it. I'm cool. I don't want nothing else because I'm tired, I'm hurt, I'm exhausted. And then guess who came along?
Right.
You know, but
right.
God had to exhaust all the things I thought I needed, all the things I thought I wanted, so that he can be like, no, this is what you actually need.
Right. That's good.
I want to add in to that as well. That was an excellent point. Another thing too, as far as being single, me speaking for myself, God had a chance to work on me to prepare me for Kina.
Yeah.
And I sit back and think about it all the time. If she had came sooner,
That's
we'd have
man.
been all messed up.
Yes.
Or
We would
Yes,
have been
sir.
all messed
Yes,
up.
sir.
And I wouldn't have knew how to handle it. You know, I wouldn't have knew how to go and pray at that time. It would have just because the way my attitude was because of the things that I've been through. So God had to take all of that time to prepare me, you know, to get all the mess out of me, and he's still getting it out of me. Get the mess out of me to help me be a little bit more stable and to teach me how to be able to love somebody. And like I said, when the time came, and after we got married, I said, okay. I said, I could have used a little bit more time, but I got it now. You know, because I didn't realize that's what God was doing. I didn't realize. All I thought was that, you know, this is just real bad. Okay, God, I know I said that I want you to, you know, bless me with a wife. And I said, I'm tired of choosing. I want you, but you taking too long.
Man.
You know, and not realizing that, you know, he was preparing me.
My husband said the same thing. He was like, you wouldn't have liked me back then.
Right. He had hair back then, and hair is not his friend. The afro, it made him look like he was straight penitentiary. Tina would not have been attracted. But hey, I call him Bishop. He's not a bishop, y'all, but that's my friend. I call him Bishop. But I thank you all from the bottom of my heart for just being willing and accepting the call to share your stories and being transparent. You guys shared a whole lot of stuff of your business on Facebook, y'all. But I definitely honestly believe that through transparency, we help other people. And I'm a firm believer, people don't have to repeat your mistakes in their own lives. They don't have to. Now, if you choose to, that's a totally different perspective, but you don't have to, because there are people that are willing to give you honest clarity about some things. So thank you. Hopefully we got to some nitty gritty of ideas about dating and courting on October 25th, a little bit different. We're not going to do it on the 26th. We're going to do it on October 25th. We're going to be talking about the rock. And if you're in love with the rings, how big it is, if you know your 4 C's, clarity, all those things, you know, the color, the shape, the size, and all those things. Or are you in love with the relationship and what it will produce? Does size matter? So anyhow.
Where my Bible at?
She was like, oh goodness. But I look forward
No,
to
I was saying, or is it the motion and the
the
ocean? It's 2 parts.
Right.
They done left the real life. I'm out. But anywho, be blessed, Anthony and Jay. We believe God for you guys.
Thank you.
Shan and her upcoming situation. I'm so excited for my friend. I'm so excited for my friend, and James and Yamisi and my beautiful baby boys. He done slept all the way through. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Taurus, for assisting me. And thank you, Khalid. I always mispronounce your name and you never correct me, but my brother, my alpha brother. Thank you so much for joining in the conversation. And until next time, come back and see us October 25th. I'll see everybody later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Be blessed, everyone.
Be blessed. Nice meeting you all.
So I'll stop streaming.